pull the.
The 1st of August, Rabbi Levitt, Nehemia.
Okay, Bezrat Hashem. Zoom is not responding. Shkoyach.
Oh, yeah, your video is off.
I can hear you though.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I see. There's
Yeah.
some issue with the. Yeah, I had difficulty getting on today also.
There you are.
Um,
We see you now. You're fine. Oh, now you're frozen.
okay.
Oh, now you're not. Defrosted.
Okay. Defrosted. Mm. Defrosted Zoom. Okay. Uh, okay, so who would like to start off the reading today? Mayor, Pasuk Ches.
Okay, I will do that. It says, Vigeret el Asav, Shomer HaPardes, Asher Lemelech, Asher Yitain Li, Eitzim, L'karot, Et Sha'arei Habira, Asher Labayit, U'lechomat Ha'ir, V'labayit, Asher Avo Elav, V'yitain Li HaMelech, Kiyad Elokei Hatova, O Elokai Hatova Alai. Okay, so in the letter for Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he should give me timber to roof the gates of the temple complex and the walls of the city, and for the home into which I will enter. The king, did I read? I guess I read that.
Okay. We
Oh,
got a
maybe I didn't finish it. It says, Vayishlaki mi amelech sharei chayil ufarshim. And the king granted me this by the hand of God, who is benevolent to me.
ah,
Oh, yeah, that's 8. That ends 8. Okay. So let's see the comment to 8.
okay.
Wow, a lot of it. It says, Vigeret el Asaph, the letter to Asaph. Let the king himself dispatch a letter to Asaph, according to Rashi, or give it to Nehemiah, who would give it to Asaph, and that's the Mitsudot.
Mhm.
Okay.
And who is this Asaf? It sounds like he's got a Jewish name.
Good question.
Asaf. Oh, well, there was Asaf. He was one of the head Levim in the Beis Hamikdash.
Oh,
He wrote Mizmor LiAsaf. He wrote a number of compositions that are in Tehillim.
wow.
Not the same one, I don't think.
Okay, so Shomer HaPardes, the keeper of the king's forest. Our translation follows Rashi. Asaph was the keeper of the forests of Lebanon, which belonged to the king.
Hmm. Cedars of Lebanon. Do they still have cedar trees in Lebanon? We don't have any here in Eretz Yisrael that I know of.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we do.
Okay. So obviously the king owned them, as it says here, by the Malbim. Next one is Asher Yitain Li Eitzim, that he should give me timber. The Talmud in Arachin asserts the donation from non-Jews are not acceptable for the construction of the temple, either
Wow.
either because their offer may mask a hidden intent to disrupt the temple construction, as in the case of the enemies of Judah and Benjamin, that's it from Ezra, or because their participation in the construction could lead them to later claim of ownership of the temple. Wow. Why then, asks the Talmud, was it permitted to accept timbers from Asaph? The Talmud answers that donations may be accepted from a king, since it is unlikely that the imperial policy, once instituted, would be reversed. Shmuel said, if the imperial power undertakes to uproot a mountain, and then it will uproot it and never reverse it. Thus, it could be assured that once the king used the power of his throne to promote the rebuilding of the temple, he would not later reverse himself or hinder its construction. See Esther 8:8. Nor was it likely that the king would later claim sovereignty over the temple once he had publicly proclaimed that its construction was for the Jewish people.
Hmm.
This comment apparently contradicted by the events of Ezra in chapter 4.
Right.
Huh. When the enemies of Judah and Benjamin persuaded the king to withdraw his approval for the temple's reconstruction. Malbim, however, to Ezra 4:21 explains that the enemies convinced the king through a slanderous misrepresentation of the activities in Jerusalem that the Jews had grossly overstepped the terms of the edict. The decree had specified that they were granted permission only to rebuild the temple. Instead, the enemies alleged that they were actually rebuilding and fortifying the entire city with its surrounding walls, indicating that they had planned a rebellion. The king accepted the slander and halted the work in Jerusalem because he assumed that the construction taking place was unauthorized by his edict. Thus, the enemies were successful in circumventing the objective of the proclamation without actually repealing it. It may be asked, since Asaph acted under the instructions of Darius, who was the son of Ahasuerus and Queen Esther, and therefore a bona fide Jew, why does Arachin treat Darius's donation as that of a non-Jew? Evidently, since was acting in his capacity as king of Persia, a gift bestowed by a monarch of a non-Jewish nation is, in effect, a gift given by non-Jews. Okay. And then Sha'arei HaBirah Asher Labayit, the gates of the temple complex. The palace, Birah, refers to the temple. The Talmudic sage Reish Lakish holds that the term Birah connotes the entire temple complex. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. By contrast, Rav Yochanan thinks it refers only to the citadel that stood on the Temple Mount. Okay. The palace gates were the gates of the wall that surrounded the Temple Mount, Har Habayit, and the gates of the wall that surrounded the temple courtyard, Azara. The temple itself had been built, but not the gates of these walls. Ralbag explains that Sha'arei HaBirah, palace gates, refers not to the gates themselves, but to the vestibules of wood that were built before the gates and led to them. Chomat ha'ir, and for the walls of the city. The beams were to be used in constructing the walls of the city. Rashi. Even Ezra Mitsudo to Ezra 6:4 explain in regard to the temple complex of Shlomo that wooden tiers used in unison with marble tiers actually fortified the structure. This is apparently Rashi's intention. The wood would be used along with stone for the city's walls. According to Ralbag, the wood was used in constructing the roofs over the gates of the city walls. And the labayit asher avo elav, and for the home which I will enter. Nehemiah also requested beams to build a house for his personal use. That's Rashi. The royal representative of a foreign country lived in a house that belonged to the king. Nehemiah requested such a house, referring to it as the home, but not my home, since it would belong to the king. Okay, and last one, Vayiten li'amelech biyad Elokai hatovah alai. The king granted me this by the hand of God, which was benevolent to me. God's beneficence gave me success and enabled me to find favor before the king. Rashi and Mitsudo.
Okay, I was going to say this whole issue with accepting donations from non-Jews. The Gemara says an erechim is not accepted for the construction of the Beis Hamikdash, and they're bringing up this issue over here in Nehemia, but we're now holding, I believe, with a standing Beis Hamikdash already, and we described that in Sefer. We described in Sefer Ezra how the funding for the Beis Hamikdash came from the king, came from this king Darius. So it's okay. I don't want to take time to look it up here right now. I don't have or maybe this is what the Ezra chapter 4. Let's just take a quick look over here. See if we could glean this pasuk. This is talking about the enemies of Yehud and Benjamin, that they slandered the Jewish people in the construction that was started in the time of Cyrus. King Cyrus was stopped, but I'm referring to the after all of that, there was a building of the Beis Hamikdash, and yeah. Yeah, this is in chapter 6, Pasuk Yud Gimel, where we had the inauguration of the temple. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you.
Yeah, it's clear from the. Okay. Just make a note to look over there in chapter 6, verse 12. Let's say 12 and 13. We see that the funding for the base of Mikdash itself was taken care of by the Persian king. So I'm saying I don't know why their art scroll is bringing up this issue all of a sudden now when we're talking about getting the cedars of Lebanon that are owned by the Persian king to build the gates of the city. What about the base of Mikdash itself? Was built with the funding from non-Jewish sources. That's clear from the psukim in chapter 6. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so that is Pasuk Tes. We go now to Pasuk Tes. Okay, Roy, would you like to read? Oh, Roy, you have a red mic.
Right, Pasuk Tes. Va'avar el pachavos haver hanocha ve'etano lahem eis igoros hamelech ve'yishlach imi hamelech Sarai Hayil Uporoshim. And I came to the governors of the land beyond the river and gave them the king's letters, and the king sent me with officers of the army and horsemen.
Okay. Igros Hamelech, the king's letters. Rashi says, Nehemia says, I gave the satraps, that's the governors, the local governors, the king's letters, instructing them to accompany me. The king had sent army officers and horsemen with me. Okay, so in other words, the letters that Nehemia was requesting from the king for military escort, the king just sent the letters to Nehemia, or maybe is Nehemia there in the palace itself? In any case, he took care of Nehemia took care of the implementation of the matter. Didn't leave that to the king. The king just wrote the letter, and with that, Nehemia approached all the governors and instructed them. Didn't ask them. He instructed them that they have to accompany him because that's what the king ordered. And the king also sent military officers and horsemen with me. These officers and horsemen, Rashi says, were sent for my honor and protection. Interesting, not just protection, but also honor. Nehemia is to be honored. The king is requesting that Nehemia be honored, just like Achashverosh said, right? Kacha ye'aseh le'ish asher chafetz hamelech b'ikaro. So shall be done to the man that the king wishes to honor. So the Malbim says that these officers, horsemen, and satraps, they accompanied Nehemia. Oh, they accompanied him to the meeting with the satraps. So although the text mentions only Nehemia's request for protection after his arrival in the Trans-Euphrates territory, I guess that's referring to the Mid-East region, it's obvious that he must also have asked for the soldiers who accompanied him to the satraps. Tsudis offers an alternative interpretation. Our verse refers to the party now sent by the satraps to protect Nehemia in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so since the psukim are not very clear about what exactly is happening, so the commentaries have differing interpretations of where it was that who was sent to protect and honor Nehemia. Okay. The army officers and cavaliers are described as those whom the king had sent, because the satraps sent them under instructions from the king. Okay. Okay, so with that, Nehemia is on his way to Eretz Yisrael, and particularly to Yerushalayim. We go to Pasuk Yud, and we call upon Lou to continue the reading with Pasuk Yud.
Vayishma san valat hachoroni v'tovia ha'eved ha'amoni vayera lahem ra'ah gedola asher ba adam l'vakesh tova livnei Yisrael. Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite slave heard, and they were extremely disturbed that someone had come to seek the welfare of the children of Israel.
Someone talking about the king of the whole region, Daryavish. Why someone? Okay.
All right, so let's see. Let's do 10. Sanballat the Horonite, Rematrani identifies him as a Jewish apostate from the city of Beth Horon.
Oish. Naboth.
Wertheimer notes on Rabbi Matrani there was
Cites your Josephus.
He cites Josephus, who asserts that Sanballat was a non-Jew whose daughter had married a Jewish Kohen. When the Kohanim who had intermarried expelled their non-Jewish wives in the times of Ezra, Sanballat's Jewish son-in-law refused and was disqualified from the priesthood. According to Josephus, Sanballat lived to witness the fall of the Persian Empire to the Greeks, and he enlisted the aid of Alexander the Great in setting up a rival temple for his son-in-law on Mount Gerizim. And Tobiah, the Ammonite slave. The Talmud in Kedushin identifies Tobiah, the Ammonite slave, as the Tobiah mentioned below, whose father-in-law was Shechaniah, son of Aruch, and whose son had married the daughter of Meshulam, son of Berachiah. Tobiah's marriage, as well as his sons, was not recognized by Torah law because a slave is disqualified from marrying into the Jewish community. The Talmud does not clarify whether Tobiah was the slave of non-Jewish or Jewish masters. In either case, he would have been forbidden to marry a Jewish woman, since non-Jews and even non-Jewish slaves owned by a Jew may not marry into the Jewish people. Rashi remarks that Tobiah was a Jew, albeit wicked. This statement apparently conflicts with the Talmud's contention that he was disqualified from marrying a Jewish woman. Conflict may be resolved by interpreting Rashi's statement to mean that Tobiah was a non-Jewish slave owned by a Jew and had undergone immersion in the mikveh. Such a slave achieves a degree of Jewish sanctity. He must observe most of the mitzvahs that apply to Jewish people, and not only the 7 precepts coming upon all non-Jews. In addition, to being a slave, Tobiah is identified as an Ammonite. Male Ammonites, even after converting to Judaism, are forbidden to marry into the Jewish community. Rashi and Mitsudos identify Sanballat and Tobiah as the enemies of Judah and Benjamin, who had previously succeeded in disrupting the reconstruction of the temple.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
The enemies of Judah and Benjamin were idolatrous non-Jews who had been transplanted by the Assyrian king Sennacherib from their homelands to Samaria in the land of Israel. Thus, they became known as Samaritans. They were a constant source of attacks upon the Jews. That someone had come. Our translation follows Rashi, who sees the syntax of the verse as unusual and to be understood as if its order were rearranged to read, when Sanballat and Tobiah heard that a person had come, they were extremely disturbed. The translation of Mitsudas, however, assumes the version's syntax to be in sequence. When Sanballat and Tobiah heard about my request to rebuild the city, they were extremely disturbed that someone had come to seek the welfare of the children of Israel.
Extremely disturbed. How do you like that? What's so extremely disturbing? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Yeah. Okay. So we got 3 more minutes. We got time for one more pasuk. Oh, just a Mari Muckham for you. You could look it up, or maybe you've already heard about it. But in the I actually saw it in my kollel in the afternoon. My afternoon kollel. Somebody put up a letter. It wasn't a letter. I think it was an article written by somebody named Alistair Heath. He writes for the Daily Telegraph in England, and he wrote this whole article about uh, the Jewish people. It's quite very interesting. He says there's no explanation for their existence. There's no logical explanation for their being here amidst all the things that have happened to them. The only thing that we could say is that the reason they're here is because of divine initiative, something like that. Alistair Heath. So he's somebody who more or less got it. Okay, so with that, we still have time for one pasuk. Want to do one more pasuk, or we'll call it?
Do one more. It's a short
Okay,
one. Not that
take it
long.
away, Mayor.
V'avo el Yerushalayim va'ehi sham yamim shlosha. So I arrived in Yerushalayim and was there for 3 days. Yamim shlosha, for 3 days. After 3 days in Yerushalayim, I began the activities described in the following verses. That's Rashi. Similarly, Ezra waited 3 days to prepare for the intense concentration necessary in examining his followers' genealogical records. See Ezra 8:15. Nehemia, too, waited for 3 days before beginning the arduous task of examining and rebuilding the city walls.
Okay. Very good. Excellent. Okay, and with that, we will conclude. Wishing everybody a wonderful Shabbos
Thank
Yes.
you.
and a successful Tisha B'Av, Bezrat Hashem,
Amen.
and
Yes.
Burot Tovot, Yeshulot v'Nechamot in Klal Yisrael.
Amen.
Okay, thank you.
All the best.
Okay, be well.
Bye for now. Thank you. See you then on Monday.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
Monday, okay. You want to continue on Monday?
Oh, yeah, Rabbi, are we going to do the normal Benas Manim schedule?
Okay, what is the remind me, what is the normal Bein Zmanim schedule?
Basically like today. Rabbi first will start at 9:30 to 10:30, and you'll go from 10:45 to 11:30.
Okay, just one shear, in other words. The
Right.
first shear.
Right.
So we'll have to deal with Phil, or he's not. Maybe send an email to Phil, just letting him know what we're planning to do, and he could whatever.
Okay.
What do you want to learn?
What?
What do people want to learn?
I assume we would continue with Nehemia.
Okay,
I'm open to anything you want.
that's fine with me. Nehemia is fine with me.
If Phil
Okay.
wants to do the Gemara, I could do that too.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we'll see. We'll start off with Nehemia and see what how it develops. Who's going to come and what they want to learn.
Great.
Okay. Shkoyach.
Have a good Shabbos and have a meaningful fast.
Amen. Bezrat Hashem.